Hey friend, it's Crystal from Lick the Shame. I recently opened the doors to Nourished Motherhood, my 8-week live group coaching experience for moms in eating disorder recovery who are navigating the messy middle of healing while actively mothering. And while this audio is connected to that invitation, more than anything, it's for the part of you that may want support, but also feels scared to be seen. Maybe you opened the Nourished Motherhood page more than once this week, not because you're casually curious, but because something in you recognizes that you're tired of carrying this alone. And maybe almost as quickly, another part of you pulled back, not because you don't need support, but because being seen can feel risky when what needs support has lived quietly inside for so long. Maybe you read a line that felt a little too close. Maybe part of you thought, this is what I've been carrying. And then another part of you quietly said, close the tab. Maybe it happened after the kids were finally asleep, the house was quiet, the kitchen still had evidence of the day, a cup on the counter, a lunchbox waiting to be emptied. Maybe the baby was finally settled. Maybe you had a few minutes alone with your phone and you found yourself reading the page again. Not just because you were casually curious, but because something in you recognized the cost of carrying this alone. And still, your finger hovered. Close the tab. Come back later. Maybe this is too much. Maybe I'm too much. Maybe I should wait. Maybe I'm not struggling enough. Maybe I don't have the capacity. Maybe I should be able to do this on my own. If any of that feels familiar, I want you to know that makes so much sense. There's nothing wrong with you if support feels both relieving and scary. So before we go any further, I want to invite us to arrive gently. No pressure to decide anything in this moment. No pressure to be calm. No pressure to know what you're going to do. Just a little room to notice what's here. Maybe your jaw softens. Maybe your shoulders drop. Maybe your breath comes a little easier. And if you're listening while driving, walking, nursing, folding laundry, cleaning the kitchen, making dinner, or sitting in the car before going back inside, you don't have to do anything perfectly here. You can simply let these words meet you where you're at. And today I want to sit with something tender. The part of us that wants support and the part of us that wants to hide. Because maybe over these past few days, something has been stirring in you. Maybe you read an email and felt that quiet ache of recognition. Maybe you listened to an audio and felt less alone for a moment. Maybe you opened the Nourished Motherhood page and found yourself coming back to it later. Maybe part of you thought, I think I need this. And then almost immediately, another part of you said, no, not yet. What if I'm too much? What if I'm not struggling enough? What if I join and don't know what to say? What if everyone else is further along than me? What if I show up and still feel stuck? What if I fail at this too? What if I let myself hope and I'm disappointed? And I want to say this again gently. That makes so much sense. For many of us, being seen has not always felt safe, especially around food, especially around our bodies, especially around needs, especially around the parts of us we have worked so hard to keep hidden. Many of us learned a long time ago how to tuck the tender parts away, how to appear okay, how to be the capable one, the thoughtful one, the high functioning one, the one who can explain recovery beautifully in theory, the one who knows the scripts, the one who has done therapy, the one who reads books, the one who cares deeply, the one who keeps going. And in motherhood, that can become even more complicated because there are children to care for, meals to make, bodies changing, snacks requested, lunches packed, appointments to attend, pregnancy hunger, postpartum hunger, breastfeeding worries, provider comments, growth charts, body comments, the pressure to feed everyone well, the fear of passing this on. And somewhere underneath all of it, there may be part of us quietly asking, but where do I go with what is still hard for me? Where do I bring the fear that rises when my child asks for more food? Where do I bring the shame after I react? Where do I bring the panic after a body comment stays with me for days? Where do I bring the prenatal appointment where a number, a recommendation, or comment followed me home? Where do I bring the postpartum hunger that feels frightening? Where do I bring the breastfeeding or supply worry that suddenly turns into food fear? Where do I bring the grief around a body that has changed, even when I feel like I should only be grateful? Where do I bring the part of me that wants to trust my body but still feels scared? Where do I bring the part of me that wants recovery but also wants control? Where do I bring the old shadow that still shows up in motherhood? We've all been there in these different seasons of our motherhood journey. I came across a line recently about how life can still rise into joy, even when a shadow remains, and how sometimes what we need is not to pretend that the shadow is gone, but to make space for it. And I thought about how true that can feel in eating disorder recovery and motherhood. There can be laughter at the dinner table and still a part of us bracing. There can be baby kicks or newborn struggles and still a part of us panicking about hunger, weight, food, or body changes. There can be school pickup, bedtime stories, snack plates, toddler giggles, family photos, and ordinary motherhood rhythms. And still, food, body, fear, and shame may be taking up more room inside than anyone can see. There can be real growth and real struggle in the same day. There can be a part of us that knows better and a part of us that still feels afraid. There can be part of us that wants to raise our children differently, and a part of us that still carries the voice that wounded us. There can be a part of us that longs to join a space like Nourished Motherhood, and a part of us that wants to stay hidden. And I want to say this gently. The part of you that wants to hide isn't bad. It may be trying to protect you. It may be trying to protect you from shame, from rejection, from being misunderstood, from being too visible, from needing something and being disappointed, from letting yourself hope, from discovering that this still matters so much. For many of us, hiding has been a way of surviving, a way of keeping the tender things tucked away, a way of making sure no one sees just how loud it still gets inside, a way of continuing to function, of making it through another day. And so when support becomes available, it can feel complicated because support asks us to let something be seen. Not everything, not all at once, not before we're ready, but something. Maybe the truth that we're not in crisis, but we're not at peace either. Maybe the truth that we are functioning, but caring so much. Maybe the truth that motherhood has made recovery louder. Maybe the truth that pregnancy or postpartum has stirred things we thought were quiet. Maybe the truth that feeding our children touches our own food wounds, or the truth that food, body, fear, and shame are taking up way more of our inner world than we want, or the truth that we're tired of spending so much energy bracing, replaying, second guessing, or trying to recover from hard moments alone. And this is why support isn't a luxury, not when so much of our internal life is being consumed by fear and shame, not when one hard moment can follow us for hours or days, or when a comment can stay with us long after everyone else has moved on. Not when we're physically present with our children, but internally fighting a battle that no one else can see. Or when we're trying so hard to break cycles while still tending to the wounds those cycles left in us. Support is part of how we begin to come back to ourselves, back to our children, back to our actual lives, back to the moments we want to be present for. Not perfectly or not instantly, not with every shadow gone, but with more space, more compassion, more room to pause, more room to repair, more room to be honest without being swallowed by shame. And maybe this is the question worth holding gently. How much energy have I spent carrying this alone? How many evenings have been lost replaying a comment, a reaction, a feeding moment, a body thought, or a fear about my child? How much of my inner world has been occupied by food, body, fear, and shame? Not because I'm failing, but because I'm carrying something heavy. And support was never meant to be reserved just for crisis. And I think this is one of the most important things about nourished motherhood. It's not a space where you have to arrive fully ready. It's not a space where you have to perform recovery. It's not a space where you have to prove you're struggling enough. It's not a space where you have to share before you're ready. It's a space where the part of you that wants support and the part of you that wants to hide can both be met gently. Because both parts make sense. The part that wants support may be tired of carrying this alone, tired of translating the overlap between recovery and motherhood, tired of pretending that one hard moment doesn't take so much from you, tired of trying to use insight alone in moments that need safety, support, and practice, or tired of the food and body and shame taking up so much space that less of you feel available for your children, your relationships, your rest, your joy, and your actual life. And the part that wants to hide may be scared of being seen, scared of being too much or not being enough, scared of joining and still struggling, scared of hoping that this could help. Both parts are welcome. You don't have to silence the scared part in order to take one step towards support. You don't have to feel completely confident. You don't have to be certain in every part of you. Sometimes the next step is simply noticing something in me wants to be supported and something in me is scared. And maybe both deserve compassion. Maybe healing doesn't always begin because the shadow disappears. Maybe healing begins when there is finally a safe enough place to bring what has been living in the dark, a place where we can say, this happened at dinner and I can't stop replaying it. This comment stayed with me longer than I wanted it to. My child's appetite stirred something old, or my pregnant body is changing and I feel scared, or my postpartum hunger feels overwhelming. A number at an appointment followed me home. A food recommendation made the eating disorder voice louder. A comment about bouncing back woke up something I thought had quieted. I know what I believe, but in the moment, fear still takes over. I want to trust, but a part of me still wants control. I don't want to pass this on, and sometimes I'm terrified that I already have. We've all been there. And instead of being met with shock or shame, we are met with compassion, not excusing, not dismissing, not pretending hard moments don't matter, but compassion that helps us slow down and ask, what got touched here? What was this part of me trying to protect? What support do I need to come back to myself? What might repair look like? How can I practice this in real life, not just in my head? That is the kind of support Nourished Motherhood was created to offer. Support for the real moments, support before crisis, support before the shame spiral has to consume another evening, another bedtime, another quiet hour after everyone else is asleep. Support for the mother who looks okay but is carrying so much. For the pregnant mother who's trying to nourish herself and her baby while her old food fears get loud again. Support for the postpartum mother who's exhausted, hungry, touched out, and trying to care for a body that no longer feels familiar. Support for the mother who wants to raise her children differently while still learning how to care for the wounded parts of herself. Support for the mother who is growing and struggling in the same breath. And this is the deeper hope. Not that you never struggle again, not that every fear disappears, not that you would become a perfectly recovered mother who never gets activated, but that food, body, and feeding moments begin to take up less of your inner world. That one hard moment doesn't have to consume the rest of your day. That shame doesn't have to be the only voice in the room. That repair starts to feel more possible. That more of you becomes available for your children, your relationships, your rest, your joy, and your actual life. That there can be less bracing, more room to breathe, less hiding, more honest support, less carrying it alone, and more coming back to yourself. And if that is you, I want you to hear this. You don't have to wait until every part of you feels ready. You don't have to wait until the scared part disappears. You don't have to wait until you are fully healed, fully confident, or fully certain. You're allowed to receive support while you're still becoming. And Nourished Motherhood is open now through Tuesday, June 2nd at midnight, or until all 15 spots are filled. Our first live call is Wednesday, June 3rd, and calls will be recorded if you can't attend live. And if you're listening after enrollment has closed, you can still visit the link in the show notes to learn more and join the waitlist for a future cohort. If this is the kind of support you have been quietly longing for, if part of you wants to step toward it and part of you still feels scared, there is room for all of that here. You can read more and join Nourished Motherhood through the link connected to this audio. And for today, I hope you can carry this with you. The part of you that wants support is wise. The part of you that wants to hide is protective. And neither part has to be shamed. You are allowed to come slowly. You're allowed to come honestly. You are allowed to come exactly as you are. I'm here with you, friend. Thank you so much for tuning in today.